European funds to inject money in the European economy in this pandemic. But now comes a second very important step, that is the recovery. And for the recovery, Europe will provide the huge package of 750 billion euro Next Generation EU. But we have to make sure that the social aspect is absolute priority. And therefore the summit will discuss how to make it possible to have good jobs, how to put emphasis on training, on upskilling, reskilling for the green and the digital transition, and how to make sure that people who are in need are being protected. All the necessary stakeholders are here. The heads of state and government, the European institutions, but most importantly, the trade unions, the employer unions and civil society. So I'm sure this summit will show Europe can deliver. Thank you.
Bonjour, nous sommes ici pour exprimer de liberté, d'état de droit sont au cœur de nos préoccupations et nous allons exprimer avec les partenaires sociaux, avec les forces vives européennes, cette ambition de doter l'Union européenne de cette capacité d'agir davantage sur le plan social. Et puis nous aurons ce soir également et demain, avec l'ensemble des chefs d'État et de gouvernement, l'occasion d'être mobilisés pour exprimer cette volonté d'avancer afin de rendre l'Europe plus robuste sur le terrain social. Today is an important moment for the European project because this is the second time after Göteborg that we have the opportunity to express a very strong signal. Social Europe must be a reality more than ever after the climate transition, the digital transition, and of course because of COVID-19 we feel it's urgent to work very hard with the social partners but also with all the political leaders in order to make progress on this important field. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
So today we're looking forward to continuing the Gothenburg summit. I'm very proud and happy that Portugal has taken the torch from Gothenburg here to Porto. And today we're looking forward to the social partners' commitment. Tomorrow we'll have a declaration from the European Council emphasizing the importance of the social dimension, emphasizing that this cooperation that we have in Europe with the European Union is essentially for the member states' citizens, nothing else. And this summit will underline the importance of it, putting the people at the very center. Thank you.
European minimum wage going?
It's proceeding, and we're all confident. Hello, we're all confident. We need decent wages. That's nothing. We don't discuss that. We need decent wages, decent and good working conditions, and all about then exactly how we would that. We'll get back to that issue. Hello, there goes.
Hello, Stefan. How are you doing?
and criteria which relate to equal pay for women and men, it's our very, very high priority. And I'm happy that in accordance with the data which we receive regularly from international think tanks, we are quite high, number 4, number 5 in the European Union in this race to eliminate the gap between men and women, in particular in the workplace.
There seems to be a problem with the...
Η Γενική Σύνοδος του Πόρτο λαμβάνει χώρα σε ένα σημείο καμπής για την ευρωπαϊκή οικονομία. Καθώς επιταχύνονται οι εμβολιασμοί και η πανδημία υποχωρεί, η έμφαση της Ευρώπης θα δίνεται λιγότερο στην προστασία των θέσεων απασχόλησης και περισσότερο στη δημιουργία καλών νέων δουλειών. Αυτό για την Ελλάδα σημαίνει τρία πράγματα. Πρώτον, ουσιαστική επιτάχυνση των επενδύσεων με μείωση της φορολογίας, των αστυνομικών εισφορών και δημιουργία ενός καλύτερου κλίματος. Δεύτερον, έμφαση στην εκπαίδευση και στην κατάρτιση, έτσι ώστε οι νέοι μας να έχουν εκείνες τις γνώσεις και τις δεξιότητες που θα τους βοηθήσουν να βρουν καλές δουλειές. Και τρίτον, μια νέα εργατική νομοθεσία που θα δίνει δύναμη στον εργαζόμενο. Δύναμη να επιλέξει ο ίδιος την ισορροπία μεταξύ επαγγελματικής και προσωπικής ζωής. Δύναμη να λέει στον εργοδότη του ότι δεν μπορεί να τον ενοχλεί εκτός ωραρίου όταν εργάζεται με την εργασία. Δύναμη να λέω όχι σε οποιαδήποτε κατάχρηση της εργατικής νομοθεσίας και σε απλήρωτες υπερορίες μέσα από την ψηφιακή κάρτα εργαζόμενων. Okay. I speak English.
Ja, der vil jeg sige det, jeg også siger i Danmark, nemlig at sundhedsmyndighederne har truffet en beslutning om, at der er 2 vacciner, der ikke indgår i vores nationale vaccineudrulning. Det er ikke en beslutning.
speaking. If you want to. Okay, okay.
Zadovoljstvo mi je danas biti u Portugalu na socijalnom samitu. Čestitam mom kolegi Kosti što su evo epidemiološke prilike dopustile da se nakon dugo vremena nađemo i u zemlji koja predsjeda Vijećem Europske unije. Riječ je o važnoj temi. Nakon 4 godine ponovno smo svi okupljeni oko socijalnih prava, oko zaštite radnika, socijalne uključenosti, dijaloga, jednakih šansi, mogućnosti da kroz načelo europske solidarnosti pomognemo našim radnicima diljem država članica da upravo kroz zajedničku suradnju očuvamo radna mjesta. Hrvatska je u tom pogledu u proteklih 1 i 2-3 mjeseca zaista učinila puno. Očuvali smo radna mjesta, stali uz hrvatske radnike, stali uz poslodavce i brojevi govore za sebe. Danas imamo više osiguranika nego što je to bilo prošle godine, dakle 2020. Ono što je posebno važno, imamo ih još više nego što ih je bilo i 2019. godine. I sa te strane možemo izraziti zadovoljstvo da smo više od 10 milijardi investirali za plaće radnika, da smo osigurali sredstva za skraćeno radno vrijeme, za fiksne troškove, a to znači da je više od 120.000 poslodavaca moglo zadržati svoje radnike i isplaćivati plaće. Država je pritom mnoge oslobodila i od plaćanja poreza i od doprinosa. Na tom tragu nastavit ćemo i sa politikom, aktivnom politikom zapošljavanja u koju smo uložili u našem prvom mandatu 1,2 milijarde eura, a to znači da Hrvatska pokazuje koliko su joj važni radnici, koliko je važna zaposlenost. U prvom mandatu sa 49% zaposlenih mladih sveli smo tu nezaposlenost na 19%. Stoga i danas uz puno partnerstvo sa socijalnim partnerima želimo dati doprinos europskoj raspravi o stupu socijalnih prava. Hvala.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Lo primero, felicitar a la presidencia portuguesa por la celebración de una cumbre, a juicio del Gobierno de España, muy necesaria, muy importante. Nos centramos, sin duda alguna, siempre en la dimensión sanitaria de esta crisis, de esta pandemia, también en la dimensión económica, pero es imprescindible situar la dimensión social también de la pandemia, porque esta pandemia, como toda crisis, lo que ha hecho ha sido agravar y mucho las desigualdades sociales, las desigualdades intergeneracionales, las desigualdades de género y también las desigualdades territoriales. Con lo cual, en primer lugar, felicitar a la presidencia portuguesa, al país hermano, por el acierto en la celebración de un debate imprescindible en el seno de la Unión Europea. En segundo lugar, decir que el conjunto de la sociedad europea y en particular la sociedad española tiene puesta la mirada en la salida a la emergencia sanitaria y también a la recuperación económica. Y eso tiene dos pilares fundamentales. El primero de ellos tiene que ver con la vacunación. La verdad es que el ritmo de vacunación, como dijo la ministra de Sanidad en España hace muy pocos días, va como un tiro. Ayer mismo vimos cómo se mejoraba y se situaba el récord de vacunación en un solo día en más de 530.000 vacunas administradas a la población española. Por tanto, el ritmo de vacunación va creciendo cada día y, por tanto, vamos a llegar a ese objetivo que se comprometió el Gobierno de España del 70% de la población española vacunada antes de que termine el verano. Pero junto con esta dimensión de la vacuna en España, es evidente que hay otra dimensión que es la internacional. Nosotros, desde el Gobierno de España, damos la bienvenida a la propuesta de Biden de suspender las patentes, pero creemos que es insuficiente, que tenemos que ser mucho más ambiciosos. Por eso el Gobierno de España ayer circuló entre todos los países miembros de la Unión Europea una propuesta en la que no solamente tenemos que suspender las patentes, sino que tenemos también que acelerar el proceso de transmisión de la tecnología y del conocimiento al conjunto de los países del planeta. Y junto con esa aceleración de esa transmisión del conocimiento y de la tecnología, lo que tenemos que hacer es reforzar la capacidad de fabricación de las vacunas en todo el planeta, en todos los países, y finalmente lo que tenemos que hacer es acelerar la distribución de las vacunas. Por tanto, damos la bienvenida a la propuesta de Biden, creemos que va en la línea adecuada, pero que es insuficiente, que tiene que ser mucho más ambiciosa, y esa es la propuesta del Gobierno de España. Acelerar ese conocimiento en tecnología y también en el propio conocimiento de la vacuna. En segundo lugar, robustecer la capacidad de fabricación de todos los países de la vacuna y, en tercer lugar, acelerar la distribución de la vacuna a países que ahora mismo claramente lo necesitan como consecuencia de la situación epidemiológica. Y junto con esa emergencia sanitaria, yo creo que también tenemos que visualizar también la recuperación económica, ¿no? La vacunación claramente está animando y reactivando la economía en España, en Europa, pero creo que la propuesta que hemos presentado a la Comisión Europea hace escasos días del Plan de Recuperación, Transformación y Resiliencia, que hoy las vicepresidentas del Gobierno y yo mismo hemos tenido ocasión de poder presentar ante el Rey de España, ante el jefe del Estado, como hemos hecho también en las Cortes Generales, me parece que es fundamental, porque tenemos que transformar nuestra economía, tenemos que darle esa triple visión integradora, tanto social, territorial, como de género, a esas transformaciones que es la digital y la ecológica, ¿no? En definitiva, España no solamente los españoles quieren y tienen ganas de recuperar la economía, de crear empleo, sino también de hacer un país más digital, más verde, más igualitario y más cohesionado desde el punto de vista social. Por eso, y ya con esto termino, creo que España está mirando única y exclusivamente a lo que es importante, que es la salida de la emergencia sanitaria y el impulso a la recuperación económica y a la creación de empleo. Nada más. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
désormais les droits sociaux que vous venez défendre sont plus sur des positions de principe à ce stade. Est-ce que pour votre présidence de l'UE, à laquelle vous voulez donner beaucoup d'importance au premier semestre, est-ce que vous ne risquez pas de vous retrouver au volant d'un diesel, toujours en manque d'efficacité, comme vous l'avez vous-même surnommé?
Je pense que nous devons à chaque fois donner beaucoup d'impulsion pour que les sujets avancent. Ils n'avancent pas tout seuls. Alors, on a montré que nous pouvions faire avancer des sujets, y compris sociaux. Je vous rappelle qu'il y a un peu plus de 4 ans, le travail détaché était un vrai sujet de préoccupation. Nous sommes mobilisés, deuxième semestre de l'année 2017. On a obtenu des changements en 2018, on les voit sur le terrain. Et les règlements d'ailleurs vont arriver dans quelques temps. Donc il y a un agenda législatif social avec des vraies avancées sur ce sujet. Sur les travailleurs des plateformes, c'est un vrai sujet social qui touche notre pays. Nous avons passé il y a 15 jours une ordonnance en France qui permet d'avancer. On va en discuter aujourd'hui, il y a un agenda européen, on va encore aller plus loin. Nous avons le sujet du salaire minimum que nous avons poussé, qui était au cœur de la campagne de 2019, que là aussi nous cherchons à faire avancer. Il y a des résistances, des réticences, il y a des moments de crispation, mais ils sont nécessaires pour qu'il y ait ensuite des avancées. Et donc aujourd'hui c'est un moment où on va se retrouver, on va discuter de ces sujets, on va en parler aussi, ce qui est très important avec l'ensemble des partenaires sociaux européens avec lesquels nous devons travailler activement. Et c'est ce qui va nous permettre d'avancer l'agenda législatif que nous avons commencé, que nous allons poursuivre. Et j'entends faire la même chose sur la présidence française, en particulier sur les sujets de fiscalité que nous posons depuis le début et qui sont aussi des éléments clés de la justice sociale et de la convergence.
Est-ce que la fiscalité, c'est pas justement la clé de la justice sociale quand on voit Joe Biden qui d'un claquement de doigts peut demander une imposition minimum des grandes entreprises?
C'est vrai, mais je vous invite à regarder les impositions qu'il y a aux États-Unis, y compris après cette réforme, et celles qu'il y a en Europe. Vous savez, vous avez tendance parfois à regarder ce qui fait de l'autre côté. Je suis très heureux que les États-Unis d'Amérique nous suivent dans ce que nous proposons et qui était bloqué par eux depuis des années. Mais la fiscalité du numérique, proposition que nous avons poussée, nous Français, que nous avons poussée en Européens, qui était bloquée à l'OCDE par nos amis américains. S'ils sont prêts à venir et qu'on conclut cet été, c'est formidable. Mais c'est parce que les États-Unis nous auront rattrapés sur notre position. Quand je regarde la fiscalité des plus fortunés des entreprises, que je compare celle qui existe et qui existera après ces réformes aux États-Unis ou en Europe, il y a encore beaucoup de chemin à faire pour que la justice fiscale américaine ressemble à la justice fiscale européenne.
Il y a des dumpings fiscaux à l'intérieur de l'Europe.
Et ça, nous devons les corriger. Et c'est pour moi ce que cette taxation numérique et taxation minimale permettra de faire. Merci à vous. À tout à l'heure. Bonjour à vous. Moi, je suis ouvert sur ce sujet, je l'ai déjà dit, mais il ne faut jamais oublier que nous, les Européens, nous nous battons pour que le vaccin soit un bien public mondial depuis maintenant 1 an. Et je suis heureux qu'on nous suive. Ensuite, quel est le sujet actuellement? Ce n'est pas vraiment un sujet de propriété intellectuelle. Vous pouvez donner la propriété intellectuelle à des laboratoires qui ne savent pas le produire, ils ne le produiront pas demain. Le premier sujet pour la solidarité vaccinale, c'est le don de doses. Ce que nous avons lancé dans ACTA, qui est le don au sein duquel il y a le véhicule COVAX et sur lequel les Européens avancent. On a commencé à donner des doses il y a plusieurs semaines. Et donc, les doses, le don de doses, c'est la clé. Deuxième pilier de cette solidarité pour que le vaccin circule, c'est de ne pas bloquer les ingrédients et les vaccins eux-mêmes. Aujourd'hui, les anglo-saxons bloquent beaucoup de ces ingrédients et des vaccins. Aujourd'hui, 100% des vaccins produits aux États-Unis d'Amérique vont pour le marché américain. En Europe, sur à peu près 110 millions produits, à date, nous avons exporté 45 et gardé 65. Nous sommes les plus généreux au monde aujourd'hui, dans le camp des pays développés. Donc je pense qu'il faut aussi que l'Europe soit fière d'elle et sache avancer. Troisième chose, la clé, c'est le transfert de technologie. Ce qu'il faut réussir à faire, c'est transférer la technologie pour produire soit ce qu'on appelle le drug substance, soit faire le fill and finish au maximum au service des pays qui sont en développement. Donc oui, je suis favorable à avoir ce débat. Il ne doit pas tuer la rémunération d'innovation, parce qu'il faut toujours rémunérer les innovateurs et les chercheurs, c'est important, et donc ça, il faut le préserver. Oui à la solidarité, mais elle passe aussi par ces mécanismes-là sur lesquels nous devons avancer.
C'est possible de convaincre Madame Merkel?
Nous travaillons totalement main dans la main avec la chancelière sur ce sujet, avec la Commission européenne. Et donc sur tous les leviers que nous avons évoqués, nous sommes ensemble. Merci à vous.
The opening session of the Porto Social Summit will start in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. Thank you. Good afternoon. Boa tarde. Bem-vindos a Portugal e ao Porto.
Welcome to Portugal
Welcome to the Porto Social Summit. It is a pleasure to have you in Portugal in the beautiful city of Porto. For the first welcoming remarks of the Social Summit, we invite on stage the Prime Minister of Portugal, António Costa.
Senhores Presidentes,
Presidents,
Senhores Presidentes
Presidents
do Parlamento Europeu,
of the
do
European
Conselho Europeu e da Comissão
and
Europeia,
of the European Commission,
caro Diretor-Geral
dear
da
Director
Organização
General
Internacional do Trabalho,
of the
my dear
ILO,
Guy Riders, we like very much to have a British among us in this European meeting. Senhor Secretário-Geral da União Europeia dos Sindicatos,
of the ETUC,
senhores Presidentes das Organizações Representativas
Presidents of the
dos Empregadores,
representative, employer
senhores
organizations,
caros representantes da plataforma
dear
da sociedade
representatives
civil,
of the civil society
senhores chefes de
platform,
Estado,
dear
caros
heads of
colegas
government and
chefes
state,
de governo,
dear colleagues,
minhas senhoras e meus senhores,
ladies and gentlemen,
bem-vindos à Cimeira Social
welcome
do
to
Porto.
the Porto Social
Começo
Summit.
por agradecer
I'd
a
like
presença
to
de todos
begin
aqui
by
hoje.
thanking everyone for
É muito
being here
significativo
today. It is in
num
fact very
momento tão
important
difícil como aquele que atravessamos, tenha havido uma mobilização tão expressiva. É, sem dúvida, uma grande demonstração da importância da dimensão social europeia que junta numa mesma sala chefes de Estado, chefes de governo, líderes e representantes das várias instituições da União, o diretor-geral da Organização Internacional do Trabalho, os parceiros sociais, os representantes da sociedade civil. Queria, aliás, agradecer a todos os contributos que fomos recebendo e dos quais gostaria de destacar a resolução que o Parlamento Europeu aprovou e os parceiros dos comitês, do Comitê das Regiões e do Comitê Económico e Social da União Europeia. Vivemos tempos de exceção. A Covid revelou a importância de termos um Estado social forte, mas revelou também as múltiplas fragilidades que ainda subsistem nas nossas sociedades. O trabalho digno e com direitos não tem apenas a ver com a dignidade da pessoa humana, como repetidas vezes tem sublinhado o Papa Francisco. O trabalho digno e com direitos é também uma questão de resiliência e de sustentabilidade das nossas sociedades. Uma sociedade precária não é uma sociedade resiliente. A recuperação não pode atender apenas à emergência presente. E chegou o momento de combinarmos a emergência com a recuperação. A proteção do emprego com a criação de emprego. A preocupação de evitar falências com o investimento necessário ao aumento da competitividade. Combater os efeitos imediatos da crise não nos permite negligenciar os desafios estratégicos que tínhamos de enfrentar e ainda temos à nossa frente. A emergência sanitária que agora vivemos acresce à emergência climática que já vivíamos. Esta é também a década da Europa digital, da transformação digital das nossas economias, das nossas sociedades e da afirmação da Europa à escala global. Chegou o momento de pôr rapidamente em marcha a recuperação económica e social com base nos motores das transições económicas, das transições climática e digital. Mas esta recuperação só será sustentável e bem-sucedida se for justa e se for inclusiva. Estas transições geram oportunidades, mas geram também grandes angústias e muita ansiedade. Como qualquer transformação económica e social, geram criação, mas geram também destruição. Trazem ansiedade a milhões de trabalhadores confrontados com novas formas de trabalho, de virtualização de direitos que tão duramente foram conquistados. Suscitam também receio às empresas, em particular às pequenas e médias empresas, que temem perder competitividade com as novas exigências ambientais ou não conseguir ter a capacidade de investir o necessário para aproveitar plenamente as oportunidades da digitalização. A transição climática, temos aqui um exemplo bem ao lado, na cidade de Matosinhos, onde acabou de encerrar uma refinaria. Matosinhos vai dar um enorme contributo para o esforço de redução das emissões de CO2. É verdade. Mas também é verdade que o encerramento da refinaria elimina postos de trabalho de centenas de trabalhadores, os da própria refinaria e de outras atividades a ela ligadas, que serão obrigados agora a mudar de emprego ou a requalificarem-se para as novas atividades que aí virão a desenvolver-se. Como este exemplo aqui ao lado, seguramente podemos encontrar muitos outros exemplos um pouco por toda a Europa. Quer
relativamente ao setor da energia,
and I'm looking at the energy sector, the automobile sector, many other sectors where the climate transition means profound change. And changes in turn lead to further profound changes in the production process. Europe cannot lag behind in these transitions, but we cannot forget the other side of the coin of these transitions. Hence, the need for a strong social pillar in order to combat inequalities, in order to create new jobs, in order to guarantee reskilling and social protection throughout the whole transition process. The recovery should be based on the green and digital transitions, and it will only be successful if we make sure that our society becomes more robust. We need to do away with existing inequalities and not create new inequalities between people or new inequality between various regions. And this is precisely why we are here today, in order to renew the European social contract. Everyone, member states, local authorities, social partners, everyone at their level have to find inclusive and innovative responses so that we can become a paradigm of a society that can adjust to the new times. Our citizens need to trust. They need the confidence to deal with this twin transition. And this is our ambition. And this is why the European Commission in March this year tabled its action plan in order to guarantee the implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights, which was proclaimed in 2017 in Gothenburg. And I'd like to take advantage of welcoming Stefan, who took the initiative of organizing the Gothenburg Summit. I would also like to welcome Ursula and Nicola Schmidt for their contribution to building together a stronger and fairer Europe, thanks to this action plan. But this action plan isn't just a mere response to the current crisis. It is also a future-proof instrument. It's an instrument looking to the future, because the whole process of these two transitions do not just rely on the reduction of CO2 and boosting digital companies. No, we need to do more. We need to create more and better jobs. We need to invest in reskilling and innovation, reinforce a new social and welfare system. And this is the challenge that all our societies face. And we can only achieve this if we mobilize all social partners, if we speed up and intensify the social dialogue, and we reinforce collective bargaining agreements, which is why we are organizing this summit today. Sitting around the same table, we will have a frank and clear discussion on a new European pillar of social rights. We brought together leaders of member states, of European institutions, of trade union organizations, employers, organizations, civil society representatives. We will have 3 parallel panels to discuss employment, training and social protection. They will thrash out ideas, try and find a common denominator, a compromise that will unite everyone around the implementation of the action plan that was tabled by the European Commission. I would like to wish all of you good and successful work, and I look forward to meeting again here for the closing ceremony later.
Please now welcome to the stage the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, co-organizer of the high-level conference of the Social Summit.
Prime Minister Costa di Antonio, Presidents, Prime Ministers, representatives of the social partners and civil society, ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic and the uncertainty that goes with it is not over. And the recovery is still in an early stage. And thanks to our unique social market economy, we can give certainty to people they need now most. It is above all our social market economy, a human economy that protects us against the great risks of life. That is its trademark. Against the risk of illness or ill fortune, unemployment or poverty. But it also offers stability and helps us better absorb shocks. For example, through the automatic stabilizers we do have. And it creates opportunities and prosperity by promoting innovation, growth and fair competition. This is the European social market economy, unique in the world. It's opportunity and it is protection for all. And this is the European promise that our parents built for us. And I want this promise to be true for our children too. Yet we know that our world is transforming, a changing global economy, an aging society, the impact of technology and automation, a warming planet. On top of all this came a virus that shrunk our GDP, took lives and destroyed livelihoods. The new generations who are now entering job markets are worried. They see their parents' quality of life not as a starting point, but as something they may never achieve. The world is changing and we will have to change too. To say it with the great Tommaso di Lampedusa in Gattopardo, who said, everything has to change if everything should stay the same. We have to act on climate change. We want Europe to be the front runner in the digital age. But we also want Europe's social promise to be filled with life. And this is what brings us here to Porto. We are here to build a social Europe that is fit for our day and age, that is delivering on its ambitions. So thank you, dear Antonio, for your leadership to convene this social summit. Thanks a lot for that. As we gather here in Porto, the people of Europe are calling precisely for opportunity and protection. The pandemic has revealed some of the paradoxes of our economy. Just think about the so-called essential workers. From the health professionals to clerks, from cleaners to delivery people. We all know now that our daily life depends on them, on their work, on the risks they take. Their contribution was priceless during this pandemic. And yet, so many of these essential workers do not enjoy the same rights and the same social security as others. Europe's social market economy must work for them too. It must work for youth and for women, who were the first to lose their jobs during the lockdowns because they did not have a proper contract. Europe's economy must work for people who did their best and still don't earn enough to make a living. It must work for those who need to learn new skills for the jobs of tomorrow. But it must also work for employers who are investing, who take risks and take care of their employees. So Europe's promise is for all of them. We do not start from scratch. Indeed, as you said, Antonio, 5 years ago, Gothenburg. If Gothenburg was all about principles, Porto is all about action. It is about turning these principles into tangible, positive change for millions of Europeans. And we are here to discuss how we can do so. First of all, I believe we need clear targets to drive our action. This is why we have indeed proposed the Commission's action plan. 3 measurable targets, both ambitious and achievable. What are the targets? By the end of this decade, we want at least 78% of adult Europeans that have a job. It is doable if you just look at the large proportion of women who do not have a job today. We want at least 60% of adult Europeans who have training every year, because skilling, training and upskilling is one of the most urgent necessities for the whole workforce to meet the transformation, the green transformation and the digital transformation. And we must lift at least 15 million Europeans from the brink of poverty, most importantly of all, at least 5 million children. We all know. Why do we have these targets? Because only what gets measured gets done. The targets give us a sense of direction, but we need to start now. And as European Commission, we already put forward a series of proposals that can get us closer to our goals. A youth guarantee to provide young Europeans with the right opportunities, more important than ever after this pandemic. A child guarantee, so that every child at risk of poverty has access to the basic needs and basic rights, like education and healthcare. It makes such a difference for their lives. A directive on pay transparency, because it shouldn't matter whether you are a woman or a man. Equal work deserves equal pay. And we're building a pact for skills, working with many of you who are here today, trade unions and employer associations. It is a pact to give workers the skills they need, because lifelong learning is a fundamental necessity of today's ever-changing world. And all of this will be backed by the largest public investment plan in our union's history. It is the largest investment plan since the Marshall Plan. We call it Next Generation EU, and there's a reason why we call it Next Generation EU. Our recovery plan will create good jobs all across our union. It will invest in skills, and I know the heads of state and government here are working in their national recovery plans exactly with their social partners on these goals. We will invest in skills to master the green and the digital transformation. And it will be backed by reforms to re-energize our economy. It is the opportunity of a century. And I urge all member states that have not yet done so to ratify before the end of the month the own resources decision, because it is a precondition to go to the capital market and raise the money that is necessary to start Next Generation EU. In other words, all of us here share a huge responsibility to make this strong recovery happen. All of us here have the power to make a difference for the people of Europe. The trade unions, and employers' associations, civil society organizations and entrepreneurs, the heads of state and government, and the EU institutions. As I was preparing for this summit, I received a letter from a young Portuguese nurse. Her name is Vitória. She wrote to me that she could find a job thanks to one of our union's social programs. And Vitória wrote, and I quote, "Every day I am grateful that I was born in a country that belongs to the European Union." End of quote. Aqui, juntos, somos mais fortes. Vitória is so right. Together we are stronger. Together we can live up to our social rules and make them work for all Europeans. Together we can make good on Europe's promise. Long live Europe, viva Europa. Thank you.
To discuss the way paved from Gothenburg to Porto, please welcome on stage the President of the European Parliament, David Sassoli, the Prime Minister of Sweden, Stefan Löfven, and the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis. An interview will be conducted by the Minister of Labour, Solidarity and Social Security of Portugal, Ana Mendes Godinho.
Hello, hello, hello.
Can get rid of the mask, yes. Can we take out the mask now?
Well, good afternoon to all of you and welcome to this Porto Social Summit, which I hope and I think we all desire that can be an historical moment for all of us, and I think that's why we are here. I think so enthusiastic for being together, for being in presence together, for sharing this common desire and aspiration that we all want for Europe. Well, first of all, let me say that we are exactly going from Gothenburg to Porto, and here we are on the road with some miles far away, with so many aspirations that are so close to our hearts and our desire in the moment we live. Well, I believe this is our moment. This is the moment to reflect together, to share what we want to do, what we want to change to accelerate in Europe. But this is also the time to give the impetus that we need to give to the action plan of the social pillar and of the European Pillar of Social Rights, and to support the European recovery and the climate, the digital change, that transitions that are happening. We need to take action, and the European Pillar of Social Rights, when it was proclaimed in 2017 by the European Parliament in Gothenburg, the Council, the Commission, with 20 key principles and rights to support fair and well-functioning labour markets, and we cannot forget that these are our 20 principles. Gothenburg gave this determinant impetus to the reinforcement of the European social model, and it put it in the front page. And for the last 4 years, these 20 principles have been in our day-to-day lives, and they were the beacon guiding us towards a strong social Europe. Let us now, today, start the writing of this live book that we are doing here together. But let us hear from all of us what we can actually do and what we can accelerate in this moment of transition. I will start by you, David Sassoli. Mr. President of the European Parliament, comincio per lei, and I will ask you how do you see the role of this increasingly role in fundamental paper of the European Parliament in this European process, and how do you evaluate for the time being the involvement and participation of the European Parliament in the implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights?
Sì, grazie.
Thank you very much.
Un saluto a tutti, grazie per l'invito.
Greetings to everyone. Thank you for the
Ci troviamo
invitation.
qui a Porto con un po' di ritardo, ma grazie ad Antonio Costa siamo stati tutti richiamati a dare una risposta tramite le azioni dell'Unione Europea alla difesa della nostra carta d'identità. Perché il welfare, il pilastro sociale, i diritti sociali sono la nostra carta d'identità. Come potremmo aiutare l'Europa ad avere più solidarietà, ad avere più consenso, ad esprimere maggiore capacità, resilienza, essere un attore globale se rinunciassimo al nostro pilastro sociale, a quello che ci tiene insieme, a quello che tiene insieme i cittadini e li aiuta nelle grandi difficoltà che vediamo in questo momento. Quindi abbiamo necessità di rispondere all'invito della Presidenza portoghese, all'impegno di tutte le istituzioni, alle proposte del piano d'azione della Commissione e alle domande del Parlamento europeo con politiche molto concrete. È la concretezza che oggi fa la differenza e che in questo momento è davvero importante per aiutare i nostri cittadini a uscire da questo tunnel. Se non fossero concrete, we need to have concrete action. If we do not, then difficulties will only spiral further.
Mr. President, we all know how the European Parliament represents and expresses the political diversity within Europe, within the Union. So how do you think that the European Pillar and the Action Plan can in fact contribute to feed the Parliament's debates and the agenda and the often different views that we all know that are coming from the different political families in the next decade.
Ma il Parlamento è molto impegnato già da un anno nella risposta alla crisi. Se il Parlamento europeo non fosse stato rimasto aperto non ci sarebbe stata risposta europea alla crisi. E questo l'abbiamo fatto in collaborazione con le altre istituzioni, in uno sforzo molto importante, sia per rispondere alle questioni economiche e sociali, sia per rispondere alle questioni sanitarie. In questo momento naturalmente siamo molto esigenti perché è passato un anno e vorremmo ancora di più. Vorremmo che la difesa di alcuni diritti, le capacità dell'Unione di aiutare i nostri cittadini, specie quelli più deboli, che vediamo aumentare con numeri molto importanti, naturalmente fosse all'altezza della sfida che abbiamo. E quindi il Parlamento europeo è unito nel fare la propria parte. Naturalmente abbiamo apprezzato molto le proposte del piano d'azione della Commissione, vedo qui il commissario Schmidt, e naturalmente abbiamo bisogno rapidamente di discuterle per dare delle risposte molto concrete ai nostri cittadini, alle nostre imprese, ai nostri paesi.
Thank you, President. I'll pass the floor now to Mr. Prime Minister Stefan Löfven, which has been an historical person in this process coming from Gothenburg. And in 2017, when we were discussing exactly the pillar in Gothenburg, Europe had just overcome the previous economic and social crisis, but nevertheless we had huge economic and social challenges ahead. And Gothenburg was this unique opportunity to show a joint commitment to protect and to uphold the rights of equality, fairness and opportunity for all citizens. So it was a marking point and a turning point. And the first social summit was organized in Luxembourg in 1997. What was on your mind? What were you thinking 20 years later to pursue the ambition of holding a social summit which proved to be a landmark in the building of a strong social Europe? What was on your mind?
On my mind was that we need to be very clear what the purpose of this cooperation really is. The cooperation, the European Union that we have is about improving lives for people. And after the financial crisis, there were too many people that felt mistrust, disbelief in the future, and thought that politics, be it at the national level or the European level, couldn't do anything or too little to improve people's lives. I think the purpose was to show, no, that's not the case, but we need to step up. And there's no better way to do that, to gather the leaders from different countries to say that the highest decision-making body in this European Union will clarify that the social dimension is as important as any other dimension in our cooperation. Because without the people, we're nothing. This is not primarily about financial flows or flows of goods. Those are good tools to create wealth, to create welfare. We need those. So that cooperation is good. But along with that, not beside or after, but along with that, we need to have a clear social dimension so that people can see, yes, I have a place today, but I also have a place in that future project. Because if we don't have that sense of feeling, we're not going to be, people will not be happy with that. That's the first thing. The other thing is that we will lose competitiveness. The best competitiveness we can have is if people feel, yes, I'm on board. I have a place. I want to contribute. And I feel safe because I know that the economy will change, labor market will change, some technology will get old, we'll get new technology, new jobs, but that's the future because I know I'll be there. And therefore the three fundamental principles in the Declaration in Gothenburg was the right to job, if I express it in a different way, everybody's right to job should be absolutely clear. This is what we need to work with. How do you do that? How do you work with innovation, the public sector? How do you make sure that the people are needed? And how do you train people for those jobs? So, and how do you create working conditions that are decent? The President of the Commission reminded us just recently we have 50 million, we want to rescue 15 million people from avoiding poverty. That's on our continent. It's unbelievable. We shouldn't be in that position. So I think that's the right to job, decent working conditions, and if you cannot work, if you're sick, if you're unemployed, what's the social security when you cannot work? Those things will bring people on board. So I think the key message was in Gothenburg. I think the key message is here. Thank you, Antonio, for gathering us again. Thank you for taking the torch from Gothenburg to Porto Thank you very much, because it's a new message, it's a renewed message to the people that this is a basic idea with the European Union cooperation, improving people's lives.
Thank you. And in fact, when we look back to Gothenburg, we did come a long way since then, and we did show as Europe as a whole, in a coordinated way, answered in a very, very intense way to protect jobs during this pandemic, to answer and to protect people, families, citizens. And what do you think, what steps in the middle of this pandemic, what steps should we take from Porto from now on to guarantee that, as you said, people are part and feel that they are part of the project that we are building, and that without them we are nothing?
Well, first let me say I'm very glad for the Commission's action plan, because as was said recently, principles are not enough. Principles are important to build upon. So that's a guidance, but we need action. So I think the most important thing is built on the same thing that I said in my previous statement, is that you show people that first education for our young citizens is something everybody is entitled to, decent education, so that when you reach the grown age, you reach that as a free individual, strong individual. But you also know that we should cooperate more in the economy. I mean, we have a huge continent that we will innovate new products, because new products will create new jobs, and the more we can have enterprises demanding workforce, the more people will have a job. So I think that innovation, research is very important, energy, all these things that are basic to create new jobs, but also making sure that men and women, for example, are treated the same way, because women generally have a lower employment rate than men. Why is that? Why do we not utilize all the competence, all the force that we have on our continent? So I think showing also that gender equality is key. I think that is a key thing, and that means that men and women must have the same possibilities on the labor market. I think also the working conditions, if we can help one another improve working conditions, nobody should fear going to work, because we might get killed during the work, or you might get seriously injured. That is one thing that we can raise the standards, and then the social security when you cannot work. How do we improve the social security? So whether no matter if you live in Sweden or in Portugal or in other countries in Europe, you know that if I cannot work, I don't have to leave my house or my home. I feel safe financially, and on top of that, I will also get support to my next job. Those are the things that we need to do, and I think generally the best thing to do that is to do that both nationally, but also in cooperation between our countries in our union.
Which was so evident during the pandemic, to see when everything stopped, all the economy had to stop for a sanitary reason, that there were mechanisms to support jobs and to maintain the revenue of families in such tough times. So I think this was also a very determinant moment, even to give legitimacy to what we are all doing here, and to guarantee that, as I think you said, to take advantage of the best asset that Europe has, which are people. So use people as this advantage to competitiveness, as the basis our competitiveness in the world. Well, I'll pass now to Mr. Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis, and listening and wanting to see from your point of view, now turning from 2017 to 2021, what do you see as the main achievements that the European Pillar on Social Rights have done in terms of the Commission side?
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, with a proclamation of European Pillar of Social Rights in Gothenburg in November 2017, we put social policy right at the center of European policy making, where it belongs, and basically acknowledge the fact that economic and social issues are two sides of the same coin. Since then, we had been building on this, and actually there had been some 75 initiatives at different levels from the European Commission on developing on the 20 principles of the European Pillar of Social Rights. And there I would particularly highlight three directions of work. So first, skills. Something we acknowledged already in 2017, that the world of work is changing with a rapid technological development. We need to equip people with right skills to be able to meaningfully participate in the labor market. And that's where, for example, European Skills Agenda comes in. But now the context is changing, but skills is becoming even a more important issue. We now have two flagship policies of green and digital transformation of the economy, but this means that the nature of work is going to change even more rapidly. And with this, the emphasis on skills, on reskilling, upskilling, lifelong learning will become even more important. So this is the first very important element, skills. Second important element on which we have been also working is making work pay. So fair and predictable working conditions, and one can mention different initiatives like social protection for all, because also the nature of work is changing. We have new atypical contracts, new atypical work relations, and we must ensure that regardless of what kind of work relations you have to contribute to the social system, and you need to be able to benefit from the social system if it's needed. So we need to ensure social protection for all. We need to ensure decent wages. That's where our proposal on the adequate minimum wage framework comes in. We need to have good working conditions, occupational health and safety. So fair, good, predictable working conditions, making work pay. That's a second very important work direction. And there probably I would also highlight especially the support for young people, because for young people it's often difficult to enter into labor market. Also now in COVID-19 crisis, youth unemployment has increased at the speed 3 times higher than general unemployment. And that's, President von der Leyen already mentioned the youth guarantee, which we are now strengthening, building up on this, also building further on initiatives like youth employment support. So clearly this focus on youth is very important in this context, but also in other vulnerable groups in labor market. And third very important direction is adequacy and sustainability of our social protection systems, helping those who are most in need. Because once again, if we look at our flagship policies on green and digital transformation, they will only be successful if they will be socially acceptable. So we need to ensure that this transition is happening in a socially acceptable way, that also recovery from COVID-19 crisis happens in inclusive way, that there is emphasis on reducing income inequality, leaving no one behind. So those are 3 very important work directions I would highlight, and I would say that helps us to protect and adjust our European social market economy to the changing reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Valdis Dombrovskis. Of course, with this strong and powerful action plan, we have a roadmap for the years to come. But how do you see that we can guarantee the coordination of the pillar and the action plan with the other strategies? and with the several measures, instruments developed by the European Commission, such as the financial instruments like the Next Generation EU, or the recommendation for effective active support, and with the European processes.
As regards now action plan on the implementation of a social pillar, of course this is one of the deliverables we hope to see as European Commission is your endorsement of the action plan so that we can really build on this. And as I was saying, action plan develops a social pillar, but already in a new context, in a context of green and digital transformations, in a context of post-COVID-19 economic recovery. In terms of coordination of this work, so European semester, our macroeconomic and social policy coordination cycle would remain the main tool for the coordination. We are adjusting our social scoreboard for that purpose. We are putting forward new indicators. Once again, President von der Leyen already mentioned the new indicators like concerning employment levels, concerning the share of people in training, concerning how many people we need to bring out of poverty. So we need clearly to put new indicators in the European semester, but we see European semester as a main tool. Then you mentioned effective active support for employment, and indeed now when we are starting to come out of COVID-19 crisis, we will need to shift from the measures which are kind of sure type of measures, which is to the extent possible, protect employment, to finance programs like short-term work schemes and civil programs. Now, when we are coming in out of the crisis, we will gradually need to shift emphasis on active labor market policies, which would help us to accompany green and digital transitions of the economies, and that's where our EASE recommendation comes in. Thank you.
Thank you, Valdis Dombrovskis, and thanks for this panel, your inputs, and especially for your commitment and for what you've been doing also to guarantee that Europe is a union that is supported on people. I think it is obvious, and I could sum up from our conversation, that the European pillar and the social and the action plan can be, in fact, right now an answer for the expectations of people and for the hope, the feasible hope that people need. People need to believe, need to trust, need to see a Europe that they be confident on, with concrete answers for their concrete day-to-day needs and day-to-day lives to real people. And we are addressing real people who are waiting for our answer and our capacity to resolve their concrete problems. And this is our time, I would say. This is our time to act. This is our time to accelerate and to guarantee that the responsibility we all have at different levels are put in place to answer the concrete needs of our Europeans that do need this to trust. This is the only way for social peace. This is the only way for us. This is time to deliver. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Grazie.
Now we invite to the stage the European Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights, Nicolas Schmit, to deliver his keynote speech about the implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan.
Prime Minister Costa, President Sassoli, President von der Leyen, President Michel, Presidents, Prime Ministers, Ministers, Members of the European Parliament, Members of the European Commission, Director General of ILO, ladies and gentlemen. First, my thanks to Prime Minister Costa for putting social rights firmly on the map and on our agenda by calling this social summit. We meet today in Porto at a pivotal moment for Europe.
We are living in turbulent and fast-changing times, and it is critical that these changes happen in a socially fair way. During the pandemic, our welfare states have protected Europeans' lives and income. And the EU showed true solidarity by immediately making the SURE instrument a reality to support member states, but also to support workers and companies. Now, more than a year after the outbreak, we have our eyes firmly set on the recovery, one which is sustainable, inclusive and fair. The pandemic exposed and deepened existing inequalities, some of which were inherited from the previous crisis. We are conscious of the fears of workers who see the pace of digitalization accelerating, who see industries transforming and wonder about their own future. And alongside this, of course, is the imperative to green our economies, which is an absolute necessity, but it will mean disruption for many, and the impact will not be evenly felt across Europe. People have concrete concerns. This week I took part in an online citizens' dialogue, a debate with young Portuguese people, as the President just had told us also, and they told me that the worry about getting a good job and one with fair pay. With today's social summit and the Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan, we can provide them with concrete solutions. What is certain is that the economic and social dimensions of the recovery are two sides of the same coin. We will not have a successful recovery if we leave social rights and protection to one side. This is what Europeans expect from us. 2 out of 3 Europeans see a lack of social rights as a serious problem right now. This is surely a call to action for us all. This is also the collective duty of a European Union that stands for solidarity and equality. And it is the path to our economic success. We will not have future innovators if we do not invest today in our communities, in our schools, in our training centres and in our employment services. Our response to these challenges is the European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan, turning the 20 principles, as described by Prime Minister Löfven now, 20 principles of the pillar into real policy measures that will be felt by our citizens. But we do not simply set targets and objectives and leave it at that. The action plan provides clear tools and policy measures for how to achieve these goals. As you have already heard, the action plan includes 3 ambitious but achievable EU-level social targets. And the first is employment, our major priority. Until 2019, employment was steadily on the rise. People were entering the labour market, making their way and building their future. It's painfully clear that the pandemic has affected many sectors negatively, but it has also created new demand in domains such as digital, care and many others. With this action plan, we are taking steps to enable workers' mobility towards these future-proof jobs and promising sectors. We will also reinforce social dialogue and promote collective bargaining, which should be the gold standard in our labour markets, in our social market economy. And we will pay greater attention to gender equality. In the past year, women have been on duty at work and at home. It is time we pay them what we owe them, and it is time we invest in care infrastructures so that anyone who wants to can develop a career of their own with the same opportunities and the same wage. Surely, in the 21st century, this should be a given. I am perplexed that we still have to fight for these rights. As our response, we have put the Pay Transparency Directive on the table, and we have to now make it a reality. Allow me to switch to French now. L'objectif en matière d'emploi, à savoir un taux d'emploi moyen de 78%, nécessite non seulement la création d'emplois de qualité, mais aussi des politiques d'emploi actives, encourageant l'embauche et facilitant les transitions professionnelles. Nous proposons dans ce plan d'action l'amélioration des conditions de travail, et particulièrement sur les plateformes numériques qui emploient principalement les jeunes. Ce n'est pas pour freiner le développement de nouveaux modèles économiques rendus possibles par la technologie et répondant à une demande réelle. Mais ces nouveaux modèles peuvent se développer en dehors de protection sociale qui sont essentielles pour chaque travailleur, quel que soit son statut. Le monde du travail, nous l'avons déjà entendu, est en pleine évolution. Il nous appartient de le rendre plus humain, avec des salaires décents et un meilleur équilibre entre vie privée et vie professionnelle. La pandémie a aussi mis en évidence le caractère indispensable de mesures adéquates en matière de santé et de sécurité, notamment sur le lieu de travail. Les accidents et maladies au travail représentent un coût de 3,3% du PIB de l'Union chaque année. La Commission présentera un nouveau cadre stratégique en matière de sécurité et de santé au travail. Le deuxième grand objectif du plan porte sur la formation qui a déjà été longuement présenté. C'est par l'éducation et les qualifications que les jeunes et ceux qui doivent changer d'emploi peuvent accéder à un emploi de qualité. Nous souhaitons, avec ce plan d'action, développer un droit non seulement à une bonne éducation, mais aussi à la formation tout au long de la vie. C'est le sens de l'objectif selon lequel au moins 60% des adultes devraient participer annuellement à des activités de formation. Nous voulons leur donner les moyens de tirer profit des grandes transitions, qu'elles soient vertes ou numériques, de contribuer ainsi à une croissance plus durable. Ce plan d'action doit contribuer à la réussite de notre stratégie industrielle qui permettra à l'Union de rester compétitive dans l'économie globalisée. Pour cela, nous avons appelé les États membres à moderniser la formation professionnelle et à investir dans les compétences. Nous sommes en train de mettre en place, avec les partenaires sociaux et toutes les parties intéressées, le pacte des compétences. Il s'agit d'identifier les besoins qu'ont les entreprises des différents écosystèmes, qu'elles soient grandes, moyennes ou petites, en matière de compétences et de qualification. Enfin, un troisième volet de ce plan d'action concerne la lutte contre la pauvreté. La formation et l'emploi sont certainement les meilleurs antidotes contre la pauvreté, mais souvent ne suffisent pas. Il y a dans notre Union des millions d'Européens qui travaillent et sont néanmoins exposés au risque de pauvreté. Les personnes les plus vulnérables, comme les personnes ayant un handicap par exemple, ou les chômeurs de longue durée, subissent l'exclusion sociale. Nos sociétés sont confrontées à une vraie urgence sociale, avec le mal-logement et le phénomène des sans-abri. Avec la présidence portugaise et en étroite coopération avec les États membres, les régions et les villes, nous créerons une plateforme qui permettra d'échanger les bonnes pratiques et de lancer de nouvelles initiatives. Actuellement, un enfant sur 5 est exposé au risque de pauvreté ou d'exclusion, un âge qui devrait être celui de l'innocence, de l'apprentissage, des espoirs, de l'égalité des chances. C'est inacceptable. La garantie pour l'enfance aux enfants que nous avons proposée permettra aux enfants les plus défavorisés un accès gratuit à des choses aussi élémentaires que les soins de santé, l'éducation des plus jeunes, une alimentation équilibrée et une participation aux activités culturelles et sportives. Avec la garantie d'enfance, on pourra briser le cercle vicieux intergénérationnel d'inégalité. C'est une obligation du point de vue de la justice sociale, mais c'est aussi un investissement économique essentiel. Le principe numéro 3 d'ailleurs, du socle, porte sur l'égalité des chances. Ce n'est pas une simple promesse, c'est un principe qui est au cœur de notre modèle social. La grande promesse, et la présidente l'a décrite, la grande promesse de l'Europe, depuis ses débuts, il y a 70 ans, c'est la prospérité pour tous. And this summit today in Porto is the moment to deliver on these commitments. This is not something that can be done by the EU institutions alone, or even the member states alone. It will take a concerted, collective effort of national, regional and local authorities, of cities, of social partners, of civil society. We are all accountable. Let's make this a race to the top when it comes to social rights. We all come from countries with different traditions and social systems, but we share common European values. We live in a social market economy. The fast-changing world of work, the climate revolution, the digital transition, let's look at these as opportunities. Let's be ambitious. Let's show our citizens that we are serious about implementing the pillar of social rights, their social rights. It is the theme of this summit, time to deliver. My final message, if you allow me, is dedicated to young people across Europe. You have been impacted a lot by this crisis, in your studies, in your social lives, and in your attempts to get a job. We will take care of you, all those present here in Porto. We will work hard to build this strong social Europe for you and with you, so you can thrive. Let me conclude with some words by Jacques Delors, who really helped to build this social dimension of Europe. He said in 1989, the most important year in recent European history. Je le cite, comment fera-t-on l'Europe si les jeunes ne voient pas en elle un projet collectif et une représentation de leur propre avenir? Thank you very much.
To further discuss the implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights, we invite you to participate in one of the 3 workshops that will be held in parallel this afternoon. We ask you to memorize your seats so you can return to the same ones in the closing session. To exit the room, please follow the instructions of the hosts and hostesses and remain in your seat until your row is called. First 2 rows can now leave the room, and others follow, please, when asked. Thank you.